Welcome back to OpenLine. We are talking about this year's pork report. It's put out every year by the Beacon Center, and we've been kind of going through some of the things that are in it. We have with us Justin Owen and Mark Cunningham, both from the Beacon Center. So, two more examples, couple more examples. What governor's highway safety was one. What was that?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite examples. Fortunately, the governor got this shut down pretty quickly when he found out about it. So they did this Legends of the Stall campaign to discourage people from drinking and driving. And so some of the things, I mean, calling women marginally attractive and don't go home with your boss's daughter and these types of things. They had a video or a picture of a guy sopping up vomit with a cat. I mean, there were some very troubling things. And so it obviously got called out for being very crude and inappropriate, and taxpayers spent $450,000 on this before somebody realized this is not a good idea. We don't need to be.
I didn't realize it was that much money. I remember when this happened, and it did cause a stir because they thought it was just totally disrespectful. The message
absolutely.
itself. But I didn't know $450,000. Yeah,
all kinds of stuff, and obviously wasn't that effective because there's another entry in our pork report where we're spending money on people who actually do get DUIs.
Yeah, the good thing is if you do bring him a marginally good-looking or chatty girl, that if you drink too much, that the state will help you pay for it. So ultimately, what ends up happening is the state is giving almost $500,000 to help people who got DUIs put a breathalyzer in their car. So basically, somebody commits a crime that puts them in jail most of the time and fines them. They say, you know what, you made this awful mistake, but let us help you pay for this. And the idea is when people commit these crimes, these felonies, why should we be helping them like pay for their breathalyzer, start their car? Ultimately, that's their job, and they shouldn't be able to get a license back until they can afford to put that in. That is not the job of government. And I think that most people can agree that when you commit a crime, it should be the government and taxpayers helping you out with it.
Now, if they were to argue, all right, they can't afford it, this would keep them able to work, and they're going to, put it in the car, and that way, with it in the car, you're less likely to drink and drive. What do you say to that?
Well, I think they need it to start it, and the idea is they should not be able to get a license. They have to take public transportation to figure out another way to do it. I mean, it's their fault. It's not our fault they decided to drink too much and get behind the wheel of a car. So the idea that we're putting responsibility on the taxpayers for their mistake isn't fair to anybody.
All right, I want to transition to, all right, Beacon Center does several things. Huge debate in Metro is over affordable housing. And there's a bill in our council, Bill 133. There was a great deal of discussion about it just recently in the Metro Council. This is one of the proposed answers when it comes to affordable housing. You all have a position on this. Kind of explain, you've sent out a letter very much opposed to this remedy, to this bill. Explain what it would do and what your position is.
So we have serious concerns because anytime you're dealing with affordable housing, perhaps that is an issue that we need to discuss. But when government gets involved and starts mandating that developers set aside certain percentage of their houses as affordable, essentially if they're building 10 houses, then a certain percentage of those would have to be sold essentially at a loss so that somebody that is low income can afford it. Perhaps that's a noble goal, but it's an unconstitutional goal. So we have a litigation arm, and we have analyzed this in conjunction with the Southeastern Legal Foundation and have determined that the proposal and the way that it's structured is not only unconstitutional for a variety of reasons, but it's also blatantly illegal. The state legislature passed a law just this last session that prohibits this very type of thing, and now the local council, which answers to the state legislature essentially, yes, it's a different government, but our state creates our local governments. It's different than the structure between the federal government and the state government. So when the state government says you can't do this, and they just go ahead and flout the law and do it anyway, we have very serious concerns about that.
So we have, when the council discussed this, there was a public hearing, it was minister after minister, a whole series of people coming forward saying, please pass this, we need this. That I'm being pushed out of my house, or I know someone who's being pushed out of their house. You can't afford, teachers and police officers can't afford to live in Davidson County. So this is the answer. So is there an answer that would work? How do we find the solution? Clearly, there's the need. What, in your opinion, do you think we need to do?
Well, here the government is subsidizing hotel chains, and they're subsidizing other people to build developments across our city, which is pushing, making fewer and fewer home opportunities for people. So the government's creating a housing shortage by its other policies, and then it's going to turn around here and tell other people that they're mandated to fix that problem at the request of government. And so government's creating creating the problem and then they're trying to fix it. What we actually need to do is encourage people to buy homes, of course, but the government, the taxpayer, shouldn't be paying for it. And in fact, the very people who this is designed to help are the ones that will be harmed by it. Because if somebody gets that home at an affordable rate, in most cases, I know it's debated whether it's going to continue to stay in this bill, but they would be prohibited from selling that at a higher rate when they have lived in it for, say, 5 years. So you're essentially requiring them to take a huge risk, and if they do get into that home, perhaps they can afford it today, but they might not can afford it in 5 years when they need to sell it, and they have to sell it for a loss. So the very people, and this is typical with a lot of government policies, the very people that they're trying to help are the ones who are actually harmed when you put this thing into practice.
And I do want to say, too, it doesn't just hurt developers, it hurts the middle class. I mean, so as somebody who just bought my first home in Nashville, if I want to expand my home at all, and I'm very clearly middle class, and I get a permit, that means that I either have to let somebody live in that area, which obviously is not going to happen, or I have to pay a fee. So basically, just me wanting to expand my house or put it in a garage or something like that, if I have to get a permit, that means that I have to be part of this affordable housing. I have to pay a fee to go towards that. So it's not just developers who it's hurting. I mean, it's hurting everybody. It's hurting a lot of middle class people, as well as what Justin said, the very people it's supposed to help. So really, it hurts everyone except for developers.
Well, and if they're going to have to sell at a loss to someone who is low income, then ultimately they're going to shift that burden to the middle class homeowner who perhaps they can afford a house at $200,000, but then when this goes into effect and they have to pay $250,000, then they're priced out of the market. Right. We've made housing more unaffordable.
So what is, and we could talk about this for a whole show, we have a minute left here. Where do you think this is? Do you think it's going to pass? And you want, because in here you're threatening, you know, this is illegal and it's unconstitutional and there'll be a lawsuit. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, who knows with the Metro Council. They don't tend to always pass common sense legislation. We will see. We're watching it very closely because we are concerned that it both violates state law and violates our Constitution. That's why we've warned them that you don't need to do this. There are other ways that you can address this issue while keeping with the law and keeping with the Constitution.
I think it's a fascinating discussion. All right, thank you very much. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap everything up. Take a break. We'll be back right after this.